In this video, I will be reviewing Nikon's AF Micro Nikkor 60mm 2.8D lens, but not as a macro lens. I'll be reviewing it as a standard lens at medium and long distances. So first, let's go over some of the specs on this lens. It was introduced in October of 1993. It stops down from f2.8 to 32 in full stop increments. It takes 62mm filters, has a minimum focus distance of 8.66 inches, which gets you to 1:1. And you can see that here where it's fully extended at its close focus distance. It has a 9-blade aperture, weighs 15.52 ounces or 440 grams. It is 8 elements in 7 groups, has close range correction, and takes the HN22 hood. This lens has both a manual and autofocus setting. Right now it is set for manual focus. To change it to autofocus, there's this little silver button here. You just press that in, turn the ring to A, and now you're in autofocus. It also has a limit switch on the left side here. Okay, right now it's in full, so it will focus from infinity down to 1:1 or approximately 8.5 inches. All right, so if we want to limit our range of focus, we just set the limit switch, set it to limit. Okay, here it's on full, here it's on limit, and then the lens will focus from infinity down to about 1 foot. And to switch back to manual focus, let's put this back to full. Turn it to M. I'm now going to set it to limit, and as I turn the focus ring, it will stop at 1 foot. Okay, you can see that in yellow, hopefully, 1 foot. So it goes from infinity to 1 foot. You see this little orange mark here and the white dot. Well, there's a little switch here, and you also notice that the lens is set to f32. When used on a Nikon autofocus camera, also if used adapted to a mirrorless camera, it must be set to its minimum aperture of f32, and then the aperture is controlled by the camera, okay, by the dial on the camera. This little switch here locks it into f32 position. You can't turn the aperture ring, okay? So that's where it must be set. This unlocks it so you could operate the aperture. If you were using this on an older camera, you would need to unlock this because the aperture must be controlled by the aperture ring. The older cameras did not have a control on the camera to operate the aperture. All right, now I'm going to mount it back on the camera. Let's lock it back. Okay, so the aperture doesn't turn. Now I'm going to place it back on this Nikon D810. Okay, and we're going to turn the camera on, and everything's fine. I can control the aperture. I hope you could see that. Right now it's at the 5.6. I turn this front dial, and you could adjust the aperture, right, in third stop increments. However, if I unlock this aperture lock, okay, and I turn the aperture ring. I know you could barely see the aperture ring here, but I'm now going to take it off f32. Okay, and you see this FEE? Okay, if you see that, it's an error message. It just means that the aperture is not set to the minimum. So I'm now going to turn it to f32. That disappears, and I'm going to lock it in. So you just use this lock so you can't accidentally take the aperture off the minimum setting. So I tested this lens on my Nikon D810. Normally I test lenses on my Nikon Z8. However, this lens will not autofocus on the Z8. And I had the camera set for matrix metering, aperture priority, and of course autofocus. So I went to Pennsauken, New Jersey, along the Cooper River. There was an event going on, the Dadvale Regatta, and I tested another lens on this particular day, the 300mm 4.5. So you could look for that video. So there were a lot of Canada geese. there that day. Now, there's a lot of Canada geese in this area. I live in South Jersey, also in Philadelphia, there's a lot of them, but I never saw so many of the little babies. And it was amazing. There was a ton of them. So, of course, I also did some shots on the river, and I really wanted to see how well this lens did at longer distances, medium to longer distances to infinity. So a lot of these shots here were at f8 and f11, because if you're using it as, let's say, a landscape type lens, then you're going to want to stop it down to get some decent depth of field, and it performs very well at these distances. My focus here was on the tree at f8, and the tree is really sharp right out to the edge, and I think it worked out really well. The color is good. Of course, it's a multi-coated lens. Now, this lens does take a lens hood, the HN22, but the front element is very recessed. I didn't have a filter on it, so I really didn't need a lens hood. And also I wasn't shooting into the sun. Now, this shot here of this tree with the boats in the background, of course, the focus was on the tree. And this shot was at f8. And of course, the boat in the background is out of focus. But, again, what was important to me here was the tree. So I think it did a real good job. Like I said, I'm really pleased with the color, the sharpness, and you could really tell sharpness photographing trees like this. And like I said, my apertures varied from f8 to f11 on a lot of these shots, and my ISO was usually at 400. And this goes to show you the quality of the D810, the sensor on the D810. It's an older camera, but it still performs beautifully, and it's a great combination with the 60mm Micro Nikkor. One other thing, Nikon calls their macro lenses Micro Nikkors. Everybody else calls them macro. Now, this shot here is extremely sharp, side to side, edge to edge, and this one was at f8, and this one here is at f11. And I guess you gain a little bit of depth of field on the distant trees, but as I said, this combination makes an excellent landscape camera and lens combination. So here's another shot. This woman was walking her dog, and I just think the color is beautiful. And this was standard picture control, by the way. So now I decided to photograph the boathouse off in the distance, and this is at 5.6, very sharp. Again, edge to edge at 5.6. And then I figured, well, let's take one at f8 and let's see if it improves it a little bit. So this one here is at f8 and a little bit sharper, I think. Not a big difference. Contrast is good. There's no vignetting. Of course, you're not going to expect vignetting with a lens like this at these apertures. And this one here is just a combination. The 5.6 image on the left, I had zoomed right in. There's the same two pictures that we previously saw, just zoomed into the boathouse, and excellent, very pleased. These flowers here at 5.6 along the road, the color is excellent. So this is a really nice lens, a very versatile lens. This is a kind of lens you could use just to walk around. Now, I picked this lens up several years back. Unfortunately, I don't remember what I paid for it, but I purchased it from KEH, an excellent source for used equipment. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have one of these lenses. Now, I also have the 55 Micro Nikkor 55 2.8, which is a little bit older lens. It's a manual focus lens. It also is excellent, very sharp. But sometimes I just prefer using an autofocus lens. And it would be nice if you could autofocus with this lens on the Z8, although I think someone just came out with an adapter that may allow that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions or comments on this video, please leave them in the comments below. I always try to respond to all questions and comments. And if you own this lens, I'd like to hear from you, what you think of it. And also, there is a G version of this lens that came out in 2008, which is supposed to be better. But I think this lens is plenty sharp and good for the purpose for which it is intended. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.